here's the thing. For everybody listening, don't make the same mistake the Bengals just did in any facet of your life.
People are going to get hurt. It's the hockey season.
What about the Jared Cook play on the sideline?
I was very tempted to just put defense.
I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
Come on, Austin and I have been saying this ever since Joe Burrow got injured.
I don't really think the Dodgers are going to make the World Series this year. I feel like they'll make it to the NLCS.
The Fernando Tatis extension, because that really surprised me.
Like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would hope.
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. It's a little bit too far away from draft for us to do draft videos, but we did talk about needs. So this is going to be something we're going to try to do leading up to the top 32 quarterbacks. We did that last year. We're going to do positions. So we're going to do top 10 current NFL wide receivers. I am Kevin, and I'm joined by the route runner of this podcast, Austin.
The route runner. I like that. That's a good one. It goes to the theme of the video. My dad played wide receivers, so that all works out. I like it. We'll get our honorable mentions out of the way. And Kevin did not put his in tiers, at least from what I understand. And then I did. What were you saying?
I do have a question for you. This one was difficult for me to come up with of a list. I am going to do a lot more stats in the quarterback video, but to me with the quarterback, I'm always watching the quarterback, and I'm not always watching the wide receiver, like even if the ball's not thrown to him. And I didn't do game film on each of these wide receivers. So I'm curious on what you thought. I'm very intrigued to hear your list.
Well, let me ask this question before we start. What was the most important aspect you were looking at for a wide receiver? Is it a lot of great past seasons? Is it consistency on the field, meaning they don't get hurt? Is it consistency in stats, like they never have a bad year? Is it touchdown production? Is it yard production? Is it what they're doing with the worst QB?
That's a good question. My main thing, I looked at yards, but then I was going off Pro Football Reference, and I saw yards per target and yards per reception, which I believe. Are you familiar with those stats?
Yes, but I feel like MVS is maybe the greatest player of all time in yards per catch, because I will fact check this right now, but when he was with the Packers, we would basically just say, hey, do a go route, and he would do a go route. And, yeah, his yards per catch. Yeah, he led the league in 2020 with yards per reception.
But yards per target is, if I'm correct, in my belief, is how far away they are already, correct?
Yards per target is how far they are when you're throwing the ball to them.
Okay.
Yards per receptions,
yeah.
Yards per reception.
Yeah, so I thought of those together. Like if a guy has a yards per target and has a much bigger yards, I kind of viewed it. I don't know if maybe I did this wrong, but
I mean, this is why it's our ranking. I mean, we can do it any way we want to.
Like it was a part of it where I was like, okay, maybe this is how much yards he's extending after the catch. That's kind of how I viewed him. I didn't know really how to calculate touchdowns, but I looked at yards. That was the big thing. But the guy with the most yards isn't the number one on my list. So it was a mixture of all things.
Okay. Well, let's start with our honorable mentions. And for my tier list, these guys are elite, along with the number 10 guy in my ranking. So these are the guys I believe are elite. We each did 5 honorable mentions, I believe. So
yes.
Mine, no order to these. We're not ordering the honorable mentions, or why wouldn't we just do a top 15? Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, and Tyler Lockett are my 5 honorable mentions.
Okay. I'm going to go, my honorable mention, one of them is Cooper Kupp. Injury risk, his injury season, and then there was a lot of other dynamics that I liked in the wide receivers in the top 10.
Okay.
So I view Cooper Kupp as a slot wide receiver, and I'm not sure. There are some more guys where they have difference to him. So the injury was a big part of that. Like I wasn't thinking of him because he hasn't played that much. CD Lamb was in here. I think CD Lamb is an upcoming wide receiver, but I'm not sure he's quite top 10. Like he's in fringe top 10. Cooper Cup, I think could skyrocket on the list next year. It's just I wasn't really thinking of him given his injury history, recent history.
Okay, and who else were your honorable mentions?
Okay, so I've said 2: Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Lockett, and then DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay, so you do not have D Hop on your list,
I'm not. I think
or Cooper Cup.
Yeah, the injuries were the big part. So I did calculate how many games he played.
Okay, and again, this is based on the fact of who would you want next year. So injuries do matter. But I'll go number 10 first. My number 10 is CeeDee Lamb. Still in my elite category. I believe CeeDee Lamb is a top 10 wide receiver. He proved it to me in the playoff game against the 49ers, where the 49ers could do everything they wanted to the Cowboys offense except guard CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, he's really a good wide receiver, and I was close to putting him at 10, but I'll just go with my 10. I have T. Higgins. I think
That's a good one. That's a good one. He's not on my list, but that's a good one.
Yeah, he had 74 receptions last year, which I also calculated receptions, like how much times were they targeting the ball or catching the ball, and he only had 1,029 yards. But to me, he was sharing the ball a lot. But I think he could be a very good wide receiver pickup, or he's a very solid wide receiver for the Bengals.
T. Higgins was better than Jamar Chase on their Super Bowl run. I know they ended up losing, but it's still a run to the Super Bowl. He was better than him the entire time. And I was very impressed. I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not at least having him as an honorable mention, but still then I don't know who I would take off of those guys. I really like all of them.
Yeah, it's a tough list.
Oh, no, you had to make cuts that you didn't want to make. So,
like, with the quarterback one, it seemed a lot easier to make cuts. Maybe it's because it's 32, not 10.
Yeah. So who's your 9?
I have DK Metcalf. To me, DK Metcalf has that speed, and he's also got a large body. But the thing that brings him pretty down on this list is we were talking about yards per target, yards per reception. 7.4 yards per target, and then 11.6 yards per reception. Compared to the other guys above him, to me, the margin was not as big as I thought, and he only had 1,048 yards, only about less than 20 yards more than T. Higgins, and he had 16 more receptions.
Yeah. As I already said, he's in my honorable mentions along with Tyler Lockett, who basically they shared the same stats, almost, at least yards-wise. And I thought that they played about equal. But my number 9 is DeAndre Hopkins, mainly because who I would want next year, Hopkins, when he was healthy, is a game changer, and that's my category, game changers. This goes from 9 through 5, game changers. These are guys that could take over one game at any time and it'd be over. And D-Hop is definitely someone that I think will be very popular in the trade market. But the problem is, will he stay healthy? Will he not get PED suspensions or anything else that will happen to him? But in the games he played, he was remarkable. 79.7 yards per game, which isn't like world beating, but is extremely good.
Yeah, that's true. With Hopkins, I know at the beginning of the podcast I was like he's the best wide receiver, but he's just dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff. But yeah, we'll go to your 8.
9. Oh no, 8. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. I can't count.
Very good.
My number 8 is Terry McLaurin. What he did with the Washington QB situation and always changing, and Ron Rivera's incompetency when it comes to that, I was very impressed with what Terry has been able to do. If he had Aaron Rodgers, if he had Joe Burrow, if he had a top QB, he may be higher on my list. And he was remarkable this past season, 1,191 yards. He only had 5 touchdowns, though. but I resort that to completely the fault of the QB situation and no consistency there. He never really get going, but he was very, very impressive.
Yeah, he was one of my really tough cuts because like he's a really good wide receiver. So, um, it's in the same category. You probably have T Higgins on your list.
Yeah, very tough cut I did not want to make.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll go. My 8 is Mike Evans. He's one guy when I was looking at the yards per target versus DK Metcalf. I think Mike Evans is a little bit older, but he's 77 receptions and 1,224 yards, 14.6 yards per reception, while only getting 8.9 yards per target. So I think it's just I know he dealt with the hamstring, so I'm not sure Eaton that's something he's often dealt with, but on the field, I think he's a better option than DK Metcalf because I believe they're around the same height, or is Mike Evans bigger?
Mike Evans is definitely taller. There's no way DK is 6'5". DK is probably like 6'3". Oh, he's 6'4". I just looked it up. So
Okay.
DK is a little bit shorter, but he's definitely bigger in size.
So yeah, I think Mike Evans, I kind of view him in the same physical wide receiver, but also a very good deep threat. And the yards per target put Mike Evans over DK Metcalf.
Okay. Who's your 7?
My 7 is Jalen Waddle. He had 1,356 yards, huge step, and he had the only guy with fewer receptions than Jalen Waddle in my top 10 is T. Higgins. So that's a good thing. And the 11.6 yards per target, but then he's getting 18.1 yards per reception. So I view that as a big step. And I think he's a young, upcoming wide receiver. And that's why he's in my top 6.
Waddle is
Your
not
top
in
7.
my yeah, let's say.
Ooh.
Waddle's not in my list. And I think you'll see a theme here. There is a theme. Chris Godwin, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins. What do they have on their team?
Probably a number 1.
A better wide receiver.
Yeah.
A better wide receiver. And it makes it really hard, in my opinion, to put those guys in the top 10 because there's so much magnetism. It's the same thing with Juju. I don't think he's all that great, but he had one of the best wide receivers of all time in Antonio Brown in his prime. Of course, Juju's going to get a lot of yards because they have to double team Antonio Brown. I don't know if Jalen Waddle's success, and he played great the year before, so I'm not going to say he's not in the elite category. He's another really tough cut, but I need to see more, and I think he's going to be on this list eventually, probably. But it's really hard when I have, and I don't think I'm really spoiling anything when I say that a top 5 wide receiver in Tyreek Hill already on the team, a guy that I consider one of the best in the game. It's really hard for me to have him on the list. Yeah, that's another thing that happened with Devontae Smith, which is a great segue into A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is my number 7. Incredible year on an incredible team. He had an incredible Super Bowl. A.J. Brown, while much shorter, 3 inches shorter than DK, is very much DK. I was extremely impressed by his improvement this year, his adjustment to a new system and a new QB. Remarkable. What he did this year, 1,496 yards, 11 touchdown receptions. In the playoffs, he had 146 yards in 3 games and a touchdown. He was very good and as advertised.
Yeah, AJ Brown's a little bit higher on this list, and I'm curious on your thoughts. You were always on AJ Brown. To me, he really surprised me this year, and I think he was a big part of Jalen Hurts' success.
Yeah, I know the guy that he jumped for AJ Brown to be higher because we haven't gotten to some guys, but I'll go to my 6. We're still in the game changers category. Jamar Chase. Okay. Jamar Chase is really, really good, and his ability to, no matter if he's not 100%, still be amazing is definitely something that is very, very cool to watch. I mean, first 2 seasons, 2,500 yards through your first 2 years, 22 touchdowns. 2 Pro Bowls and All-Pro second team last year. I know he only played 12 games this year, but still had over 1,000 yards. Still had 9 TDs. And I can't wait to see Burrow in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are not even in their prime yet, or what would most people consider a person's prime. They're not old enough. So let's see Jamar Chase in 2 or 3 years, Joe Burrow in 2 or 3 years. These guys are going to be almost getting 2,000 yards in a year.
Yeah, that's a very good one. My 6 is Stephon Diggs. I Stephon Diggs I think is great. It's just I don't know if he's truly what I thought he was. Like
That's why he's on my honorable mention.
Oh, I must have missed that. Yeah, it's tough, but I still think he's like he got 1429 yards. He had a little bit a good difference in the yards per target and yards per reception, but he had 100 receptions, and it's just something I'm not quite sure. And now I'll just go right into my 5. I have Jamar Chase. So I think they're both in similar situations. They have a good wide receiving core. But I just think Jamar does more. The thing that put Jamar lower on this list for me was the 12 games this season.
Yeah, I feel that. I think that's part of the reasoning for me as well. Stephon Diggs is someone I'm just confused about. Their offense is all passing, which I don't think should take away from Stephon Diggs. But there's a lot of other options to go to, and it's just a tough situation. I probably should have had Diggs on this list, but I just feel like all the other guys are doing more with less. And that's kind of how the situation works. My number 5 is Mike Evans. I am so high on Mike Evans. Not only is he a beast, but the respect I have to give him for having so many consecutive 1,000-yard years, which is now 9, tying Tim Brown with the second most 1,000-yard seasons in a row, and the most 1,000-yard seasons to start a career. I know he didn't have the greatest year this year, but the offensive line was horrible, and Tom Brady and Mike Evans made it work.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was wondering where you had Mike Evans and Jamar Chase, because you've talked about him a lot. Yeah, and I think those are very fair reasons. So he's your 5. I'll go to my 4. You said top 5 wide receiver for Tyreek Hill, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's at my 4. He had 119 receptions, 1,710 yards. And I messed up this stat. I'm copying it, but I'm pretty sure he had 4 yards per target and then 10.1 yards per reception. He's a speedy wide receiver, but to me, the wide receivers above him add another dynamic. And to me, Tyreek Hill is incredible. It's just I liked the other attributes I think these wide receivers bring.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill's my 4. So we both have Tyreek Hill at 4. And this top 4 is all called world beaters. These are guys you need to double cover even on their worst day. And Tyreek Hill's one of those guys that can beat you on one play and make you regret not guarding him well. So he's my 4, and I think that's a pretty good spot for him.
Yeah, then I'll just go right into my 3. I have AJ Brown. This is where I'm much higher than you. I have him entering in the top 3. So
wow.
Yeah. I'm looking at it, he's at 88 receptions this year, 1,496 yards. He had 17 yards per reception, 10.3 yards per target. To me, he's that really deep threat. But he has a speed with a physical guy that I can't really think of. And to me, I just thought he was a little bit better than Mike Evans this season. So I'm doing I kind of view current wide receivers very recently. Like, what have you done for me in the past 2 years?
Okay, that's valid. Well, then there should probably be another guy on your list then that you kind of rated a little bit lower. But I'll go into my 3. My 3 is Justin Jefferson. What this guy can do with the ball in his hands is immaculate. I told Kevin this off air, but if I could choose any wide receiver to have on a contract for a career or for the next 5 years at least, he would be my choice. He's fifth in MVP voting as a wide receiver, 1,809 yards, 8 touchdowns. I know there's an extra game in there. Most yards in Vikings history, which is very impressive considering that they have two of the best wide receivers ever in Chris Carter and Randy Moss that both played for the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm Justin Jefferson is my two, so I'm wondering like who do I not have on this list? Or like who do you have higher than me? Because Justin Jefferson to me, it was like, man, he's really making a case for number one. But to me, as I've opened it, as I've said before, if you're still number one and you still have a great year, it's going to take a lot for the second person to one up you. And next year could be different with Justin Jefferson, maybe making the number one spot. But he was incredible. But he did have 128 receptions. That's why he's that's why he's two. He's not one. Because this other guy. But I'll get to who's your two. Who did I miss?
Cooper Kupp. What have you done the last 2 years? Well, Cooper Kupp last year, 1947. And 16 touchdowns. And this year in 9 games, 812 yards and 6 touchdowns. I understand there's maybe a little bit of injury concerns, but the past 3 years before that, he played at least 15 games. I feel like the main reason that he got shut down was because of the lack of the Rams team actually being good, not his actual injury bug or anything that happened to him there. I understand that he also missed the Super Bowl back in 2018 because he was hurt. But this one was, I think, more of the fact that the Rams are just incompetent on offense right now, or at least they were last year, and they tried to cut him down.
Okay. Yeah, I should have thought Cooper Kupp.
Who's your
It
three?
just left my mind. Huh?
Who's
My
your
three is AJ Brown.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And-
yeah, I get Cooper Kupp. To me, it was just the injury, so he'll probably have a big jump next year. If he continues.
Yeah. And we all know both of our number ones, a guy that I've been so high on for years. I've said he's the number one for the past 3 seasons. While you had doubt, I believe.
And then I joined his final year with the Packers, and then this year was pretty good. I thought he was going to fall because I just wasn't hearing about him because he had a career high in yards this year.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
No.
Then what?
Last year was his career high.
I thought, okay.
Last year he had 1553. This year he has 15 or
I saw
his last year with Green Bay he had 1553. Last year with Las Vegas he had 1516.
So was he? Oh yeah, I missed that. I misread the 5 and 3. Okay, but it was really close to his career high, and he had less receptions than he did that year. Okay,
More targets.
I missed the 3.
The crazy part about his years with Green Bay is his catch percentage. 72.8, 77.2. This year's only 55.6 because you say less receptions, but he had 11 more targets. The problem I think with that though is Derek Carr and that his accuracy maybe wasn't there for Devontae Adams, and maybe the schemes weren't great as well.
Yeah, I thought about putting catch percentage in here, but I wasn't sure what is viewed as a catchable ball.
Yeah, it's very objective.
Because if the football's in the dirt but it's at his feet, does that count? So that's why I was like,
yeah, it's a very subjective stat. It's not one that you can easily magnify.
But yeah. So thanks for correcting me on the career high. But incredible year. Maybe it was he led the league in touchdowns because it's in bold on Pro Football Reference, or no?
Yeah. He led the league in touchdowns.
Okay. But he was having an incredible productive year. I just wasn't hearing as much about him, but I think that was because of the Raiders' thoughts. So to me, it was mostly consistency the past few years, like the past 1 or 2 years, and the downgrade in quarterback play.
Yep.
So, yeah, nothing much. Biggest surprise for you on my list?
Probably AJ Brown at 3.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I was...
For mine,
Yeah,
is it
this guy-
Cooper Kupp or is it?
Huh? Yours, I'm probably gonna say Terry McLaurin. Like I get Cooper Cup at 2. Like if this was last year, I'd probably have Cooper Cup at 2.
Uh,
But this year, just the injury really hampered me. And I'd probably say Terry McLaurin. And then you had Hopkins at like 8.
9.
Okay.
Terry was 8.
Okay, Terry was 8. Yeah, I was curious on where you thought about Terry, but yeah, it's really good, and it's a really tough list to do. There's so many cups. I also liked your tiers. World beaters, I think, is good.
Yeah, those are guys on their worst day. You still have to double team. And then game changers, any game they could take over and you win. And then elite is elite. And there's much more elite guys than I mentioned.
Oh yeah,
But elite's a wide tier.
One guy I wish I could have put was Amari Cooper, but he just had it really. Like I think he was still productive, but the quarterback play and stuff.
Yeah, the Browns' his situation is not great.
Yeah.
Another guy that maybe joining this list quickly, if he can actually get healthy, is Michael Thomas. But we never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, Michael Thomas was one. I was like, that's because I had asked, are we going to do a minimum of games? Because I didn't know if that was going to rule it out, Cooper Cup or Michael Thomas. Because how many games did Cup play?
9.
9? Oh, okay, wow. I thought it was like 6. But yeah, and then Thomas is, and then I think like Olave, Garrett Wilson, and then we also have other guys coming up this year. And there could be some other breakout candidates. I'm very intrigued to see what happens. But yeah, I think that's a little good chunk episode. Any final thoughts, Austin?
Nope.
All right, that's all you got. Let us know if we forgot someone. I think this is probably an easier list to say, hey, you forgot this person because the quarterback won. But let us know what you think, and let us know what you think of the future ones. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.